For the next 3 weeks, we're going to focus on the passage in Matthew 24 and 25, often referred to as the Olivet Discourse. It's a section where the Lord has extended opportunities to talk to his disciples about what was ahead. And there are some big surprises in what he says. He starts out by grieving over Jerusalem. In the latter part of chapter 23, he says, "Jerusalem, Jerusalem, you who kill the prophets and stone those who sent to you, how often I have longed to gather your children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings, and you were not willing." The passage is about great surprises, and the question is, are you ready for those surprises? In chapter 24, he says, "Therefore keep watch, because you do not know on what day the Lord will come." And with that, he introduces the parable of the bridesmaids. It's a story about wedding practices and 10 bridesmaids who wanted to be a part of the feast. You see, in those days, the wedding began at the bride's home, where the groom and a procession of the friends that were invited met at the bride's home, and that's where the ceremony itself was performed. After the ceremony, then the bride and the groom and the procession of friends would walk over to the bridegroom's home, and there they had a feast. It was a major feast. Sometimes it lasted as long as 7 days. And the story is about 10 bridesmaids who planned to be a part of the feast. They wanted to wait until the procession arrived at the bridegroom's home, and so they brought their oils, and the procession was much later than they expected, and they fell asleep. And while they were asleep, their oil supply in their lamps was depleted. And so the 5 bridesmaids who were wise brought extra oil for their lamps, and they trimmed their lamps and went in for the feast. But the ones who did not bring oil found their lamps were much too low. And so they asked the wise bridesmaids, will you sell us or loan us some of your oil so we can get into the feast? But the wise bridesmaids said, no, you can't do that. You have to go and buy your own oil. And while they were going to buy oil, the procession arrived, even though it was about midnight when they got there. And the wise bridesmaids who had oil were allowed into the feast while the others were gone. When they came back, they knocked on the door and said, "Lord, Lord, open the door for us." But he replied, "Truly, I tell you, I don't know you." What is the message about readiness in this parable? This parable is not about rewards. It's about readiness. And the message is spiritual preparedness cannot be bought or borrowed. Your relationship with God is your personal responsibility, nobody else's. In Luke chapter 8, that passage summarized the same parable by saying, "Therefore, consider carefully how you listen. Whoever has will be given more. Whoever does not have, even what they think they have, will be taken from them." The truth about readiness is, unless you accept Jesus Christ and surrender to his leadership, you will face God's judgment because you are not ready to meet God. If we can help you in your walk with God, call us at LifePoint, 612-305-8300. 3:6-2.